There's a reason you feel lost, adrift in your own skin, haunted by shadows you can't explain, stuck repeating the same cycles no matter how hard you try to break free. It's not weakness. It's not laziness. It's not even a lack of ambition. It's misalignment. You are out of sync with something older than thought, older than fear, older than the chaos of modern life. And until you remember what your ancestors knew, until you remember what your soul has always known, you will remain a prisoner in your own mind. But this is where everything begins to shift. Because the truth is simple. You were not made to be comfortable. You were made to become capable. And capability doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in confrontation, with life, with death, and with the darkest parts of yourself. This ancient wisdom, buried beneath noise, distraction, and self-pity, will not flatter you. It will not promise ease. It does not speak in empty affirmations. It will demand your transformation. And if you're ready, it will deliver something greater than happiness: clarity. The self is a battlefield. Inside you rages a war more ruthless than any fought with weapons. Not a war of good versus evil, but a war of recognition versus rejection. A war between the self you allow the world to see and the self you keep chained in the cellar. You've been taught to disown your chaos, to hide your anger behind a polite smile, to bury your grief under productivity, to drown your fear in distractions, to medicate your discomfort with ambition and addiction, hoping if you move fast enough it won't catch you. But here's the brutal truth. What you suppress does not die. It waits. It festers. It grows teeth in the dark. And every time you ignore it, you give it more control. You see, the parts of yourself you exile become saboteurs. They leak through your habits, your relationships, your impulses. They whisper doubts at midnight. They rage through you in silence. And they lead you to destroy the very things you claim to want. Not because they hate you, but because you abandoned them. The war within is not one you can win by pretending to be good. The goal is not perfection. The goal is integration. To stand before your shadow and say, I see you. I won't run from you anymore. Because the monster in your basement holds the sword you've been searching for. Your rage, if owned, becomes fuel. Your grief, if honored, becomes compassion. Your fear, if faced, becomes foresight. Your darkness, if embraced, becomes depth. The ancients understood this. You cannot transcend what you have not first descended into. There is no enlightenment without descent, no power without pain, no peace without pressure. You must walk through the underworld of your own mind. You must confront the ghosts you've buried in your silence. You must become intimate with every emotion you were told to reject. Because until you do, you will remain divided. And divided men do not rise. They collapse. If you feel unmotivated, numb, stuck in cycles you can't explain, it's not because you lack discipline. It's because you've gone to war with yourself and refused to acknowledge the battlefield. Every time you deny a part of your humanity, you dull your blade. And every time you turn toward it, when you hold the pain, feel the grief, listen to the rage, you sharpen yourself. You become precise. You become present. You become whole. And wholeness is terrifying to a world built on fractured souls. This ancient wisdom, it doesn't make you soft. It makes you lethal. Because the one who has faced his own demons is not afraid of yours. The one who has walked through their own darkness does not flinch in the shadows. The one who has integrated their chaos doesn't just survive. They command. So stop reaching for false light. Stop pretending to be okay when you're not. Stop hiding from your instincts like they're shameful. Instead, pick up your weapons. Step into the storm and fight. Not to destroy yourself, but to reclaim yourself. The battle will not be easy, but it will be real. And in that reality, in that raw, unfiltered war zone of the soul, you will discover the version of you that cannot be broken. Not because they are perfect, but because they are whole. Because they are forged. Not in light, but in fire. Control is an illusion. Command is earned. You keep grasping for control like a drowning man clutching at air, hoping that if you can just hold on tight enough, plan well enough, predict far enough ahead, maybe, just maybe, life won't hit you so hard. You try to control your emotions, bury them, cage them, silence them. You try to control others, manipulate, please, argue, or withdraw so they'll behave the way you need them to. You try to control outcomes, micromanaging every detail, bracing for every failure, living in a constant state of readiness for disasters that haven't even happened yet. But it never works, because control is a fragile illusion. It cracks the moment uncertainty walks in the door. It shatters the second life, reminds you that it doesn't answer to your plans. Control is a child's comfort blanket in a war zone. It might feel good to hold, but it won't stop the bullets. What you need is command. Command is not about grasping. It's about grounding. It's not about controlling what happens to you. It's about commanding who you become through it. This is the shift most never make. They stay stuck in victimhood, raging at the world, blaming fate, collapsing at every unexpected turn. But those who ascend, those who build power that can't be touched, they stop asking the world to change. They change themselves. They gain command over their perception. They stop interpreting every hardship as a punishment. They stop assigning malice to randomness. They stop looking at pain as proof of failure. Instead, they see reality for what it is. Neutral. Unforgiving. Yes, but not personal. The storm doesn't hate you. It simply is. And when you see clearly, without the fog of emotional distortion, you become dangerous. You also gain command over your response. You don't flinch at discomfort. You don't fall apart when plans collapse. You don't explode just because someone else lit a match. You respond with intention, not impulse. With strategy, not story. With force when needed, but never wasted force. And most importantly, you gain command over the narrative in your mind. Because let's be honest, most of your suffering isn't coming from the event. It's coming from the story you've attached to it. You weren't just rejected. You told yourself you're unlovable. You didn't just fail. You told yourself you're a failure. You weren't just challenged. You told yourself it's always going to be this way. Those stories, that narrative, is what's killing you. But command means rewriting the script. You begin to say, this pain is refining me. This challenge is exposing weakness, and that's a gift. This isn't the end. It's a beginning dressed in chaos. That's not delusion. That's discipline. Delusion pretends things are good when they're falling apart. Discipline acknowledges the fire and walks through it anyway, because it knows what's on the other side. The strongest minds in history were not those who avoided hardship. They were the ones who stared it in the face, calculated their moves, and acted from inner stillness. Stillness in the midst of storm, silence in the midst of noise, clarity in the midst of madness. And from that place, command is born. It is steady. It is subtle. and it is relentless. When others panic, you hold your ground. When others break, you bend. When others fight to control what can't be controlled, you move with precision and presence, and win. Because you understand this brutal truth. Life doesn't give a damn about your plans. It doesn't care how much you want control, but it respects command. And once you master yourself, chaos becomes a resource. Pain becomes a forge. And you become the storm. So let them chase control. Let them break every time life doesn't comply. You'll be busy building the only thing that endures. Unshakable command over the one thing that matters most. Your mind. Your shadow is not your enemy. There are corners of your mind you dare not enter. Thoughts that rise uninvited in the silence. Feelings you've labeled wrong and shameful. Memories that sting. Desires that disturb. Anger that simmers beneath your smile. You were taught to push them down. To be good. To be nice. To be controlled. To hide what made others uncomfortable, even if that meant hiding you. And so, piece by piece, you buried yourself. But here's the truth no one told you. The parts you bury do not die. They rot. They mutate. And eventually, they fight back. You think you're free, but you're not. You're a puppet pulled by the strings of unacknowledged fear, unspoken resentment, and unresolved wounds. You sabotage relationships but can't explain why. You chase hollow goals, hoping to fill an invisible void. You explode over small things, unaware of the rage you swallowed for years. That's not weakness. That's your shadow, starving for your attention. It is not your enemy. It is the forgotten warrior, chained in your basement, screaming to be seen. You were never meant to be pure. You were meant to be whole, and wholeness demands confrontation. You must sit with your guilt, not to wallow in it, but to understand it. You must examine your envy, not to justify it, but to reclaim the hunger beneath it. You must look your rage in the eye, not to fear it, but to train it. Because here is the brutal paradox. What you suppress controls you. What you integrate empowers you. Your shadow holds your edge, your fire, your clarity, your no-nonsense truth, your primal instinctive knowing that the world cannot teach you, but your suffering can. This doesn't mean you unleash chaos. It means you wield it with precision. You learn to use the energy of your past without being owned by it. You no longer let guilt dictate your decisions. You no longer let shame shrink your voice. You no longer let fear whisper lies about your worth. Instead, you say, I've met the darkest parts of myself. I've stood in the storm of my own psyche, and I came back whole. And that is terrifying to those who've never done the work. They will call you intense. They will say you've changed. They'll say you've become too much. Good. Because people who have never met their own shadow will always fear those who have. They will mistake your presence for danger, when really, it's just depth. They will call your clarity arrogance, because they've never faced their own contradictions long enough to see truth. But you will walk with stillness, because there is no need to perform when you've already faced what others are still pretending doesn't exist. There is no need to overreact when you've made peace with your chaos. There is no need to chase approval when you've already accepted yourself fully. This isn't about perfection. It's about integration. It's about reclaiming your energy from the dungeons of denial and giving it new purpose. Turning the beast into a guardian. Turning the wound into wisdom. Turning the fear into focus. You will know you've integrated your shadow not when the pain disappears, but when it speaks, and you listen, when it stirs, and you channel it, when it cries, and you answer with leadership, not resistance. That is real power, not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that makes you undefeatable from within. So go deeper, find what you've hidden, own it, and transform it. Because the version of you that knows their shadow is the version of you that no longer flinches, no longer runs, no longer breaks under pressure, but stands, silent, unapologetic, unshakable, not despite their darkness, but because of it. Acceptance is power. From the moment you entered this world, you were taught to fight. Fight for approval, fight against pain, fight to be better, smarter, faster. Fight against what is. You were told, if you don't like something, fix it. If it hurts, avoid it. If it's uncertain, control it. So you spent your life resisting reality, gritting your teeth, clenching your fists, trying to bend the world into your comfort zone. And yet, you're still exhausted, still anxious, still at war with life. Why? Because you can't control the wind. You can't command the storm. You can't rewrite the chaos of existence just because it makes you uncomfortable. You were never supposed to. What you were meant to do is accept it. Now let me be clear. This is not weakness. This is not apathy. This is not rolling over and letting the world crush you. This is power at its purest. Acceptance is not the absence of strength. It's the presence of strength, refined by wisdom. It's the realization that you don't have to control everything to move forward. You don't have to like everything to keep going. You don't have to agree with reality to work with it. When the world burns, most people panic. They lash out, break down, collapse under the weight of expectations that no longer fit. But the one who accepts what is, even when it's ugly, unfair, or terrifying, that one becomes unstoppable. Because acceptance is the foundation of clarity. When you stop wasting energy fighting what can't be changed, you redirect that energy into strategy, into resilience, into command. You stop saying, "This shouldn't be happening," and start asking, "Now that it is, who do I choose to become?" That question is the turning point between victims and warriors, between the broken and the unbreakable. Acceptance is presence, rooted like a mountain, calm like deep water. It doesn't react to every ripple. It doesn't flinch at every threat. It doesn't beg for easier conditions. It becomes stronger in spite of them. Because the storm will come. Death, failure, betrayal, chaos. They're all part of the path. They don't care about your plans or preferences. But if you are grounded, if you are centered in truth, then no storm can uproot you. This isn't passive. It takes relentless strength to stare reality in the face and say, "Yes, this is happening, and I will not be undone by it." It takes emotional discipline to accept what hurts, to accept what's lost, to accept what you cannot control. But in that discipline, you gain the one thing that chaos cannot touch: supremacy over self. Not over the world, not over others, but over you, over your thoughts, your responses, your energy. You become a silent storm, unmoved by the winds of circumstance. You stop bleeding energy into regret, resentment, and resistance, and start rising. Acceptance turns suffering into insight, pain into patience, chaos into clarity. Because once you stop fighting the moment, you finally become present enough to shape it. You want strength? Then stop running. Stop grasping. Stop screaming at the tide to retreat. Instead, stand still. Let it wash over you. Feel it. Understand it. Outlast it, because that's the kind of power no one sees coming. It doesn't look like fury. It looks like stillness, but it moves mountains. And once you master that stillness, there is no storm that can break you, no tragedy that can erase you, no force in this world that can drag you into chaos, because you are the calm. And the calm is not a place. It is you, awake, unshaken, free. Suffering is the forge. You want meaning? Then step into the fire. Because meaning is not found in comfort. It is not handed to you wrapped in silk and blessings. It is carved out of you, slowly, violently, beautifully, through the agony of becoming. You don't get to rise without first being broken. You don't get to evolve without first enduring the pressure that reshapes you. You don't get to carry wisdom unless you've bled for it. That's the part no one wants to hear. They want the transformation without the pain, the strength without the struggle, the crown without the crucifixion. But suffering is not the enemy. It is the forge. It is the sacred place where the false self dies and the true self is born. You want purpose? Then carry something heavy. Carry your past without being chained to it. Carry your grief without letting it devour you. Carry your fear like a torch, not a cage. Because when you carry what others collapse under, you become more than human. You become forged. You want depth? Then go where it hurts. Not to indulge in your suffering, but to mine it for truth. To learn what most never learn because they numb, run, distract, and pretend. But you will go deeper. You will sit in the pain until it reveals the lesson. You will listen to the silence until it teaches you to hear what cannot be spoken. You want transformation? Then stop looking for an escape. There's no doorway out of the fire. There is only through. The only way to rise is to be reduced, to be stripped, to be shattered, so that the pieces can be reassembled, not into who you were, but into who you were always meant to be. Every scar you carry is not just a reminder of what hurt you. It is a symbol of what healed you. Every failure isn't a dead end. It's a blueprint, a set of instructions written in blood and sweat that says, this is where you rebuild. This is where you fortify. Every wound is a mirror, and in it, you must ask, who am I now? Because pain has a way of revealing the truth you spent your whole life avoiding. And only when you confront it, only when you use it, do you earn the one thing that cannot be stolen: resilience. That quiet, ruthless strength that doesn't scream. It simply endures. It adapts. It learns. It sharpens. Resilience is what remains when all your excuses have burned away. It's what rises from the ashes after your illusions have collapsed. It's what keeps walking, one step at a time, when every part of you wants to quit. And here's the secret. The world can take everything from you. Your wealth, your reputation, your safety, your plans. But it cannot take what you've earned in fire. It cannot take the mind you forged under pressure. It cannot take the self-trust built through trial. It cannot take the inner steel that was once soft flesh, until you chose to suffer on purpose. Suffering is not the enemy. It is the hammer. And you are the blade, dull or sharpened. You decide. So stop asking for the pain to go away. Start asking what it's trying to teach you. What part of you needs to die, so something stronger can be born. This world doesn't need more people seeking comfort. It needs warriors who are willing to suffer consciously, to suffer with direction, to suffer in pursuit of truth. Because suffering without meaning is just torment. But suffering with meaning, that's initiation. And when you embrace that path, when you let suffering refine instead of define you, when you take every painful moment and forge it into clarity, discipline, power, and purpose, then you don't just survive the fire, you become it. You don't need the world to be easier. You need to become stronger, not by denying your pain, but by mastering it. Not by running from the storm, but by standing in the center of it and learning to breathe. This is the path. This is the ancient wisdom that changes everything. You are not here to be untouched. You are here to be tempered, to carry your scars like scripture, to walk with your shadow, not as your enemy, but as your armor, to let go of the illusion of control and claim full command of your inner world, to stop resisting reality and begin responding with purpose, clarity, and presence, to accept the fire, not because it's easy, but because it's the only thing that forges something real. You want meaning? Then earn it. You want purpose? Then suffer well. You want power? Then stop pretending to be pure and start becoming whole. This is not a life of comfort. It is a life of depth, of self-ownership, of becoming unshakable, not because life stopped testing you, but because you stopped needing it to. Let others chase ease. Let others hide from the dark. Let others break when the weight of life bears down. Not you. You will face it, feel it, and forge yourself through it. Because suffering is not your punishment. It's your path, your mirror, your forge. And from that forge, you don't come out the same. You come out sharper, calmer, stronger, untouchable. Now go. Not as the version of you that begged for comfort, but as the one who rises from fire, as the one who owns their pain, as the one who walks through this life with the quiet, terrifying power of someone who has met every part of themselves and didn't flinch. That is the wisdom. That is the way. And you are ready.